Hey, Scott, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but they have moved to closed session at this point.
Is this the right one?
Yep, this is the open session, actually.
Sorry. It's hard to navigate on your phone. Sorry.
No problem.
Hello.
Well,
Let me mute myself.
Good evening, everyone. It's now 7 o'clock. The Board of Directors is scheduled to return from their closed session at this time. They did get started a little bit late, though, so it would not surprise me if they were a little late returning and reopening the session. So just bear with them, and they should return shortly.
Thank you, John. It always
thanks,
sounds like
John.
we're about to go on a roller coaster ride at Disneyland. You have that like broadcaster voice that says, "And shortly we will be turning
Yes,
the corner."
make sure you keep your arms and legs and feet in at all times.
Like we're getting ready for a space shuttle launch or something.
That's awesome. It's a great skill.
Thank you, everyone waiting for the board to resume their open session. I apologize on behalf of them for their tardiness. They are still in a working closed session. I'm sure they'll be back just as soon as they're done with the business that they have there.
Am I in the right meeting, Rich? Everyone.
You're in the right
Okay.
place, Steffi.
Oh, good. Okay.
Hi. Hello?
I can't see anybody, but I can talk, I guess.
Look at the bottom of your screens, Scott, where it has, there's a
That-
thing for mute down in the left-hand corner and then stop video. I don't know if maybe you've got your video X'd out.
You're muted, Scott, but what are you seeing? Sometimes it just, the window disappears and just gets hidden if you click on something. We don't see your video, but you should be able to see us. You should know where he is.
Hey everyone, we'll go ahead and get started. We just came out of closed session and no action was taken by the board. So we're back into regular session at 7:20 and roll call. Rob has an excused absence and so does Joshua Bowens. I believe everyone else is here. We'll move into our announcements.
I've got an announcement. Everybody, let's see.
We
The
need to adopt
candidate
the agenda.
applicant.
I'm
Huh?
sorry. We need to adopt the agenda. I'm sorry.
Oh, all right, go ahead.
Thank you.
I move that we adopt the agenda as stated.
Second.
Is that by acclamation? Thanks. Now announcements.
All right.
Okay, well, we've got about not quite a week left before the candidates for the AGM they have until the 8th at 4:30 p.m. to get their applications in. I have 3 applicants for the board, 1 applicant for NNE and 1 applicant for ACC. So just a heads up, everybody has been told that they need to at least submit their picture and their bios to me by the 8th, and the information's all in the packet, but we're getting close, folks. That's all I got.
Nice, Linda. Thanks. AJ?
I just want to say long-range planning is getting ready to put the survey that we discussed at the last board meeting online here, and that'll be going live September 7th. So looking for community participation.
Thanks, AJ, for your work on that and your team. Joe?
Yeah, just a real quick update. We got this late this afternoon from Bellingham Public Schools. They will be continuing the meals until the end of this year. They ended up getting some funding from the USDA, so we will still be able to get the meals out here for the kids.
That's
Okay,
great
that's
news.
good news. For a lot of people, because a lot of people have been furloughed or reducing their hours. Thank you for sharing that.
Any further announcements?
Just if I might just piggyback on that real quick. The community food cupboard, I know that we put out an announcement every Tuesday that it's there and available, but it's full. It is very, very well stocked. And if there's anyone in this community that has a need for groceries, there's plenty. So they can get in touch with, I mean, there's a number on their flyer. I don't have that in front of me, unfortunately. They can always contact the office here and we can connect them with the person that can help.
Thanks, Lisa. Scott?
Yeah, is everybody clear that Clean Green is not going to happen this weekend? That's going to happen the following weekend? I think it was put on the website, but I just wonder if that should be announced. It was scheduled for September the 5th. It's coming Saturday, and I saw something where it said it was postponed to the 12th. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we do have a button on the front, the landing page of our website. If you click on that, it gives you the proper schedules. But we did put out the announcement last Tuesday and will again this Tuesday about the Clean Green schedule change due to the Labor Day weekend.
Thank you.
A lot going on. Any other announcements? Okay, we'll move into our continuing business. Go ahead, Paula.
So I wanted to bring forward a conversation for really collaboration amongst all of us and for some discussion. It says responsibilities and duties of Sergeant at Arms, and I hope that didn't make anybody think that this was anything other than a conversation to kind of hopefully get us all on the same page. I'm going to be honest, I walked away from our last meeting frustrated. And I think that happens sometimes. And so what I thought might be helpful is Director Entrican opens up we have really robust conversation on this group, and we don't always follow Robert's rules, which I actually appreciate, because it was probably one of the things I was most nervous about joining the board was how in the world do we navigate those, and it's mind-numbing to watch, let alone participate in sometimes. And I also think that it's something that I've learned over the last 2 years is sometimes some of those have a lot of value. And so I wanted to have a conversation around, there is a policy of kind of the responsibilities that are deferred from the president to the Sergeant at Arms that was developed in 2019. But I thought that might be really important for us as a board to have a conversation about what those are and make sure that those make sense for this board, that those make sense for what Director Entrican is looking for in terms of conversation amongst board members, if that makes sense for Director Tischlitter to be doing, if that's what we're looking for and how we're looking for that. I don't want this isn't about like somebody's not doing this. It's more about what are we looking to have happen as a board when we have conversation? You know, I think I like open conversation, and I like being able to have a free flowing share of ideas. And I can say that I have not, in looking at myself, sometimes I've talked over people, and I think we as a board can do better on that, myself included. And I think it would be nice to come to a consensus. So I just wanted to have a conversation around that, because I don't think it's fair, since we don't always follow Robert's rules 100%, to limiting to 2 times a person, to limiting conversation every time to 3 minutes, to put our sergeant at arms at a position to have to figure out what is it in this conversation versus what is it in that conversation. And so coming up with the baseline as to what we're doing would be really helpful. So I'd like to open that up for conversation amongst the board to come to a consensus, so we can all feel like we've got good space, and that we're still able to move our meetings, and that they are shorter than 6.5 hours sometimes. That's.
Effie?
Hi, thank you, Paula. And first of all, I wanted to thank you for opening that up, because the way it was written on the agenda it really did look like, hey, you guys lost an argument. And I got to tell you, it really did look like it was vindictive. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. A lot of times, I feel like AJ is trying to make some movement, and he gets these things thrown at him. I would like to say that Sergeant of Arms is not an easy position. Our previous Sergeant at Arms definitely fell short plenty of times, and nobody was more ticked off than me. And I was still able to be silent, or not silent, but civil and kind to him as a human being. So I think that leading into that, discourse is necessary on a board. If we all agreed, what the hell are we doing here? We don't need to do that. We need to discuss the different opinions, the different things that each of us bring to this board. I think that, given that, no, I don't think we should be limited to 1 or 2 comments, because, a lot of times I jump in and say things right away. Linda Bradley, who's been here way too long and should be mayor of this little town, then waits until the end and brings something up. And then I'm like, holy cow, I didn't even think of that. Now I have something to say about that. And that tends to be the case for a lot of us. Now, I think that we should also be bold in our voices and say, no, you're just presenting the same argument. You're just mad because you're losing. We should be able to call each other out on that, and say, move on to a different opinion. That is necessary. But I also would like to say that I do not want to run the Sergeant of Arms up the flagpole, because we can do that with every single position, even just board members who serve on committees. We're all guilty, just like Paula said. So I think a healthy discussion is necessary. Sometimes we step on each other's toes, and we're supposed to be trying to follow a sequence. I also would like us to reflect from a year ago at how far we have come, because we started this entire discussion with the new people being attacked of, they can't run a meeting, they can't do this, they don't know Robert's rules, all these types of things. So we came from us, under the gun of these types of things, and the dynamics have changed. Some board members have changed, different positions have changed. But look at it, at how far we've come in almost 12 months. So I'm done.
Linda?
I think the whole thing where we get with people talk over other people is sometimes someone will start a discussion and say something, like myself, and it won't be part of the discussion, but somebody may have spoken, and what I've said has brought up something that somebody wants to add to the conversation. And I think it's hard when it's like, okay, everybody's got to take the turn, because you kind of disrupt a flow. And I know sometimes, we talk over each other, but I think it's, I don't know how to fix that, but I understand the whole thing of, if somebody brings something up in responding to a topic, that then other people may want to speak again. That's all I got. Plus, I don't want to be mayor.
I'll just throw out the input that it's also very hard to sometimes see in this Zoom stuff who's raised hands, and it's a lot easier in person to see, like, you just make that eye contact with them and then they know it's, and like, this is like, I'm trying to talk and then I'm having a point and I'm trying to look at a document to make sure I'm making my point that I want to make, properly. And then someone rose their hand, I didn't see it. Next thing you know, like 4 people have passed over that person and then they're like, WTF, and then here we are. So Karen, you raise your hand.
I don't know if I'm speaking to the same thing or opposite of what Linda said, but I do really like the idea of people getting equal opportunity to speak, meaning to kind of give everyone a chance to at least get their first thoughts out there before we move on to other things. I realize that's really hard. And like Linda says, there are a lot of times when someone brings up something in their comments that you feel obligated or really, really want to add to the conversation, and it does get disjointed if we don't do that. So I'm not sure how to balance that, but one thing that would be a priority to me is that everyone at least gets an opportunity to speak if they want to and get their thoughts out there.
Scott.
I'm going to try to do my best to speak to an issue and not to the person so much, because we're here basically to do our members' business, and it's the issue, not the person, and that is what I'm going to try to stick to.
Go ahead, Paula. You're on mute.
Of course I am. I do that at least 5 times a day. So in bringing forth, especially in the wording, the responsibilities, duties of Sergeant at Arms, that's what the policy is called. It's roles and responsibilities policy. So that's kind of what I had rolled forward. And I agree, it's really hard to keep that to 2 minutes or to 2 turns. And that's, I just threw that out as one of those. I know my intent in this, and I would hope that I've served on this board in such a way that this comes across as really to empower and to give everybody a good idea and to bring everybody together on this. That's the point. And I think it might be helpful if we decide which rules do we think are helpful to this board and which ones are not. Like, maybe it's not the 2 rule to, limiting things to 2 people, but maybe it is making sure that everybody who wants to speaks before somebody has their second turn. I don't know. I'm not here to make the rules. I wouldn't want the Sergeant at Arms position. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I give props to you for doing it because it's a difficult thing to do, especially with COVID. But if we as a board could decide what are those things that we think that would help us do our jobs better and to do our business better and to empower Director Tischletter to do that, to understand what's important instead of a big spray of what's important to us is really what I'm looking for. And I'd also like us to not, I guess the idea of people losing and winning isn't the point of the discussions. I want open debate. I'm super passionate, and that's why we're all on this board, is because we're passionate about our community. And I don't want to stifle that at all, but I do want to make sure that we're all being able to do it and move forward and get the business of this community done. So I hope that that's the intent that comes through, and I'd like to move the conversation along to kind of deciding as a board what is important to us to make sure that we are all hearing each other and doing the business that needs to be done.
So I'm just going to make one point, and then I think it was Linda and then Steffi. One thing too that I think has happened in some of the last meetings is we've had discussion items that are very like broad, like when we're just discussing the 2021 budget. And one thing that we've struggled with is what Steffi actually alluded to earlier, is like, we start one discussion point on this very large topic, but someone else wanted to say something else. And so we've gotten to this situation where one discussion point is started, maybe the next person who raises their hand continues that discussion, but then the next person starts a new discussion. And so we just lose cohesiveness on the discussion a little bit. And so maybe with more general agenda items, we look at like trying to facilitate the discussion through different points better in that regard.
You all done, Andrew?
Yep.
I was gonna say, maybe one thing that might help, and I'm not certain, is if somebody, for instance, like Paula has this her topic that's on the agenda, that she introduces it, but then we take a turn around the table and just everybody has the first go round of, and if you've got nothing to say, just say, I really don't have anything to say with this, but it would at least ensure that we're at least giving everybody that first turn. I don't know if that would help.
I think Steffi was next, then Karen.
Okay, so I'm wondering, I have two parts. One is the general agenda items. I think it would be more helpful if we were more specific, if we did contain more information and just say, hey, this is what I want to talk about, and maybe just so that we can all come to the meeting prepared. Meeting hygiene is important, and I feel like that's what you're doing. Just some ground rules. Starting and ending on time and coming prepared is good, so that we all have that, we did our homework ahead of time and we can actually speak to it. And then the second part is, are you asking to look at the 19 policy then? Because you keep referring to that.
No, I'm not asking for that. I'm asking that we maybe take a look at it though, and decide, maybe at another meeting, maybe we take a look at it and yeah, maybe we all take a look at it and see what that looks like for this board. I think some of them are really good, like just, keeping on topic and calls for civility if needed and making sure that people finish their speaking before other people speak. I think some of those are really good. So yeah, maybe we take a look at it and bring it up again at the next meeting and see if we want to make any movement on it, or if we just want to leave it the same and decide, to move forward the way it is. But yeah, I'm rambling now. I'm going to be quiet.
I was just going to say real quick that I really like, well, people have already said, I really like the idea of everyone having a first go round to say. I think that will be even more impactful, as if Steffi said, our agenda items are maybe narrower, or we try to make them as focused as possible. And I'm guilty of this as well, but making sure that we have all the documentation in the agenda packet so that people can come prepared. And at least everyone gets, this is probably not the right terminology, but an opening statement. And then from there, we can kind of move on to discussion and may or may not have anything else to say. I also think it would maybe be a good idea. We've had some conversation now, but to go and look at that document and come back and maybe have a more robust discussion around that document per se, and decide, where we think we should go from there. If any specific changes we want to make or proceed from that.
So was that a motion?
Oh, I don't know. It could be. I don't think
No,
so. I
it's
think
not
we
a
could just-
motion to table for further discussion.
Well, we don't have a motion on the table right now. So I think it would just be wrapping up this discussion and then coming back and maybe entertaining a motion or not. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
Paula, then Andrew.
I think Andrew was probably before me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hey, just to chime in on this front, I think Paul, in your introduction, you had mentioned how much you really love 6.5 hour meetings. I do too. More time together, as my wife always says. So, one thing that I've tried to introduce on our agendas is a time you'll see next to each of the agenda items. So I agree completely with everyone saying, I think we do want to work towards having a more specific agenda discussion topic that we can all focus in on. That would be good. But next to that, you'll notice that there's time limits that, the executive team, when we meet, I ask, how long do you think we need to allocate for the specific item? And we've tried to do that, but I think now it's really that time to have that conversation. If the board wants to try, obviously we're not going to stop the conversation at an hour. If we all say we want to keep meetings to an hour, we're not going to just stop it. We'll continue we'll try to get it. It's a goal, right? Do we want to have some sort of goal so that when the executive committee sets the agenda for everyone, are we trying to keep it to an hour? Do we want to keep it to an hour and a half? I've been on some boards where we go longer than 4 hours every time as well, and the consensus is, who cares? We don't mind if it's longer than 4 hour meetings. But if this group is feeling like we want to stick to an hour and a half, then we'll have time slots, and that might actually help the sergeant at arms carry us forward, because now we've all agreed to the time limit allotted, and it'll just kind of help. We're at 10 minutes. Let's move this conversation along. We're trying to stick to our hour and a half or whatever. So I just throw that out there, and I wasn't sure what others had thought, but there you have it.
I think, was Paula next?
Yeah, I was just going to say
Then
what I can
Scott.
do is because we don't have, this isn't necessary. It was up on continuing business and only voting is necessary. So we don't need to make a vote on it. What I can do though is commit to placing this on the next agenda for our next meeting, bringing it to Director Entrican to put on the agenda for the next meeting, and putting in making sure that the policy is in there and maybe the applicable parts of Robert's rules, because some of these, we don't want to completely throw it out, but there is some play in, like for instance, in time and how long people can talk. That can be decided by a board. So I'll commit to researching those and putting those into the next agenda packet so that we can have that discussion and maybe talk about what that looks like at the next meeting.
Can I ask
Scott.
it when you?
Sorry, Scott was next, then go ahead, Steffi.
Okay.
I would be happy with an in at 7 o'clock and an out at 9 o'clock goal. I believe that would hone us into a more succinct timeline. People have to go to work the next day. They may be watching. I throw that out as just a thought, as perhaps maybe a goal. Thank you.
Go ahead, Steffi.
Oh, I was just going to say, whoever's putting together the information for any agenda item. It's just always helpful when you have the information, where you got the information, like, just so that we can look, you guys understand what I'm saying? Like if it was like a number, this costs X amount, and then say where you got that from. That's all.
I would just like to make maybe one more point that would potentially help benefit the way the meetings run. Is currently the way it stands, agendas and everything are due Tuesday. And frankly, I have a 40-hour-a-week job plus 2 little 40-hour-a-week jobs running around the house and doing this and doing long-range planning and having a pandemic. And it's really, board weeks are like incredibly stressful. To be able to find the time in 48 hours to review a packet, find the time to email Joe any questions we may have, find the time to get said email, reply back, and digest it all. County council, you have to have your agenda items in 2 weeks in advance of the council meeting. Now, I'm not suggesting we need to maybe go to that length, but maybe if we had agendas coming a week in advance, we'd have a little more time to prepare. Things would be a little bit more realistic for those of us who have to work during the day and then do kids at night and stuff and can't, devote a day's worth of work or whatever to reviewing the agenda packet. And we need a few nights to kind of piecemeal that research together. And so that's something maybe that I'd like people to consider before next week as something we could address with this. That'd be super helpful to me. And I think we could ask Joe and we could get questions and there would be less questions. I don't have time to email Joe within 48 hours of a list. Sometimes an email like that can take 2 hours just to put together because you're doing the thinking and looking while you're writing the email and everything. And so, yeah. Joe?
I agree with you, AJ. It would mean a lot less stress out of my office and everybody else involved to get something a heck of a lot earlier so that we're not scrambling and we're not going to miss something for you guys on the board. So I agree with that 100%. I would love to get that timeline a lot earlier, especially for information to you guys. So I back that 1,000%. And if you have 2 little ones, you got 80 hours of extra work.
Okay. Well, and just to oh my God, I just lost my train of thought now. Go ahead, Scott.
It gets worse. Through the chair, Joe, from your past lives, how did that work with your other organizations? Was the packet ferreted out earlier?
Yeah. In past lives, generally we had a work session a week before the board meeting, and all information had to be in a week before that. And then we had a work session and everything was conducted in that work session. Then we rolled into a board meeting. Everything pretty much was determined at that point and it was voted on in public.
I'd just like to, sorry, Scott, were you done?
No, I was just going to say, I was going to ask, because I'm new, if that was ever discussed amongst you guys having work sessions.
The other thing too, if you did it 7 days in advance, then if something came up, staff was out, staff got sick, something then we get it the next day. We're still getting it 6 days in advance, which meets our 48-hour notice, as opposed to now where it's day before, day of, and we're just I don't have time to review this, kind of thing. Linda?
We used to have we used to only have one board meeting a month. And that was toward the end of the month. Then we went to where, as Scott says, you do the early meeting as a work session. Most of your stuff comes out of there. I understand for Karen and the treasurer and the finance committee, that's not always possible. But for a lot of us, you plan ahead. And then you have your business meeting where you discuss, you can discuss things at a work session, but then just the business that needs to be voted on and has to be taken care of is done on the end of the month, unless you have something special like this meeting. I thought we were just going to adopt a budget.
And yeah, Linda, to chime in, that's pretty typical of what I'm used to.
Yep. And we can go back to that. It's just a matter of people having to do that rather than, and make sure that whatever we do in our work session is then tied to the business of the month.
Leslie.
Sorry. Leslie.
Oh, we have strayed. The discussion was around the Sergeant at Arms and how we want to conduct our meetings. And there was a kind of a consensus that we would put this back on the next board meeting and bring more information. And are we done with that discussion and ready to move on?
I am. Paula?
All I wanted to do is say thank you to everybody for the discussion. I think that this will be really helpful. So thanks for taking the time and I'm feeling all kumbaya-ish now. So it's a good time to move it on.
I think singing is the next agenda item. Oh, wait, no, it's not.
I'm gonna mute.
Thanks. No, in all seriousness, thanks, Paula, for opening up that discussion. I appreciate it. I think we all do. The next agenda item is capital roads. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, in the last board meeting, we had got a project, we got the first quote for the rest of, or for the first part of the potholes, and this is the remaining part. Option B is the other, let's see, there was 38, so 17, 20, 21 potholes. After everything was all said and done, it's $21,041.41. I was asked to bring this quote to you guys to see if you wanted to go ahead and authorize the extra work to be done.
Our motion.
Yeah, I was gonna make one. Is that okay? Am I talking over someone? I make a motion to approve $21,041.41 out of the Capital Roads Fund for the remainder of the potholes.
I second.
Discussion.
Joel, can you tell us what the SURF spreadsheet has for next year for that, or what's that dollar total for next year that we had? For potholes, it's about that, I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
Let me try to pull it up here.
15,000.
So we're a little bit over. So we're dipping into like a year 3 pot a little bit, but
Yeah, because you're the following year, 2022, AJ, about 8,500.
and then you said this would eliminate all the potholes on the roads we are looking to resurface this next year. And then are we thinking there'll be more potholes on the other roads that need resurfacing, or?
You know, with potholes, you know as well as I do, they can appear at any given moment, but these are the ones right now that are in the community that have been addressed to get taken care of. So I can't, I mean, I wish I had a great crystal ball and say, you know, we're not going to have another pothole coming out of this winter or not, but I don't know. But right now it is to address everything that is in the community in the areas that we are going to be working on. So again, we might have a pothole pop up in the roads that have been resurfaced. I won't know that until we get through the winter.
Yeah.
Actually, AJ, on the 2020 road spreadsheet, it says 20,000 scheduled for potholes.
That's this year. We're talking next
That's
year.
this, yeah, next year, 2021.
2021, yeah. Joe's right, 15,000 for 2021.
And we had 20 for this year, and we only approved 18 at the last meeting,
yes.
so we're basically going over about $3,000. Okay, and then I don't know, my last point before I move on is just, you know, we had the number of bids on the work or whatever, and this company actually beat out Granite, who is basically the biggest asphalt company in our area. So I think, you know, we're likely getting a good price with the pandemic and everything right now. I know we've gotten good prices on asphalt for our projects this summer as well. So, you know, I think it would be beneficial to us to potentially just do this work. And I mean, if this guy's beating out Granite, that's, you know, we're doing good. All right, I don't know who was next. Leslie and Linda have their hand up.
Leslie first.
I just wanted to clarify, number one, that this 21,000 is additional to what we approved for the original set of potholes. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, this is additional. And the second thing is that this is an add-on to the existing contractor. We did not go out and get 3 bids on this. We just gave it to the original contractor.
Yeah, this would be, it could, couple terms you could use. You could either use a change order, or In this case, it would be an ad alternate. I mean, you could use, basically it's the same thing, but we went back to them since they were already mobilized, gave us the lowest price per foot to do the stuff. So that's why we went back with them. And that was what was authorized by the board in the last session, is to go right back to them and see what it would come in at.
Okay, thank you.
I think this kind of question is for Joe and maybe for Joel, and maybe as an answer to AJ. I'm assuming that in these years that we have decreasing pothole amounts are the years where we're going to be starting to resurface or whatever we choose to do. And by spending that money, we then reduce this, fix the pothole because the pothole is fixed.
Well, what it is, Linda, is we have to prep prior to the overlays or the resurfacing.
Yes.
And what we do. So you always look at trying to go in front of them, so that you get it done and you're not having to overlay it and while they're overlaying, trying to work at the same time. So you try to get in front of them. Again, potholes, and you know, AJ is probably the only one here besides myself that has any road experience. I wish I had a crystal ball. I can't guarantee you if we're not going to have any more, but right now what we have is what we're going to address, and we'll go forward with them. And the goal with that is always to be moving in front of the work that you're trying to do on the roads.
Any further discussion?
Call the question.
Okay, all those in favor of approving $21,041.41 as presented. Do I have that right, Paula?
$21,041.41.
The out of capital roads for the remainder of potholes.
Perfect. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Any opposed? Motion passes. Did you get that?
Thank you, guys. I'll get Tyler on it right away.
Director
Thank you,
Jones, I
Joe.
put you down as approving.
What was that, Paula?
I couldn't see Director Jones, so I was just confirming that that was a yes.
Uh-oh. Veteran bot voice.
Okay.
We've got our,
It was
All right,
robot language, but I got a yes.
I think that's a photo finish. It's like a yes. Okay, let's move on. Meeting requirements, AGM.
Okay, it's me. I didn't put this on here. Andrew put this on for me. I understand from Oryx. We had a resolution that the attorney recommended that we put together. He sent us a draft. There were a couple changes that I made to more clearly explain what we were looking for. And then there was the whole thing about in-person voting. I just about died when I looked at this. I had simply said that it would be outlined in section 6 of the NNE manual and the following health protocols established by applicable health authorities. We still haven't heard back from the Whatcom County Health Department, although Norm has sent me the copy of the outline and stuff that we did. This stuff they took from the CDC, and it's like prior to entry into the room, each person will sign a screening form. Each individual will have their temperature taken. Each individual will utilize hand sign. I have no trouble with that. No more than, I have some of these, I don't, but it's the whole temperature thing. I don't know if the Whatcom County Health Authority is gonna require that of us. I think I'm gonna send something back. I'm gonna send Norm a note in the morning and show him this. I don't know if he had any input into this or if this is just something the attorney's office came up with. Because I didn't have all these A, B, C, D, E's in here. when I filled out that information about in-person voting.
Joe?
Linda, I can tell you, I had an appointment in town at a doctor's the other day, and yeah, they hit me in the forehead with a thermometer. So the little thing. So that is, if we're going to do in-person voting, which I agree we should, we're going to follow all the steps that the governor sends down, and we're going to follow them to the letter of the law. So if that means we have to have someone stand there and take their thermometer, or take your temperature, so be it. We just can't deviate from it, Linda. And the county.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah, I don't think the county's going to give us a hard time as long as we follow the letter of the law that the governor has issued.
I think this is from the CDC. If I look at the page that's behind it and stuff.
Well, that is some of the, that's a COVID screening form and stuff. But again, they are testing as far as how to enter certain buildings. You are getting your temperature taken in the county.
Yeah, I know. I went to get my hair done and I got my temperature taken.
Yeah,
I just want to confirm this with Norm. And the only other comment that I have about this document is we still have Mike D'Angelo on here. That hasn't been corrected to include William Scott Walsh instead.
Okay.
And I don't
That's
know
an easy
who's
change.
doing that updating.
This document came right from Rich. Go get that changed.
I know you've mentioned that a few. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I good to speak?
Leslie was next, then you.
Thanks.
Just a quick question, Linda. Where do we plan on having voter registration if people choose to do that?
We have a plan for using the community center. And it's just,
According to these rules, yeah.
yes, and more besides. For instance, if we're gonna come in the regular doors that you come into, but you're gonna exit through the emergency exit, Norm said he'd see about getting that opened so you don't have people coming in and out the same door. So we've made some adjustments there. And definitely, you know, there's a whole thing of how many people can be in the room with us, you know, so that there's no more than 5 people. You know, if they have to fill out a form, we're probably going to have to put a table outside somewhere. The question came up, well, what do you do if you get a line of people at 12:30? We're planning on handing out tickets. And if you don't have a ticket to get into the circus, it was Lisa's idea, and it was great because we have tons of tickets that we use for raffles and stuff here. But it makes sense that somebody will stand out there if it really gets backed up. I don't think it's going to, but I don't know. But I know there can be very few people in that community center at, you know, voting, and it's going to be register. You're gonna have to turn in your form. There's some extra steps here that I need to think through a little bit after looking at this resolution, but we've got a lot of it covered already.
Thank you.
Andrew is next, then Lisa.
My question was answered. Thanks, AJ.
I just wanted to add that we have gotten permission from Ken's to use the actual kitchen to have people registering behind a plexiglass barrier. So they'll be inside that kitchen and using those doorways so that people are not out behind tables and things like that. So we've gotten confirmation from our turf care and maintenance that those plexiglass barriers can be fabricated easily and in time.
Good.
I just have one question about the document. I'm curious as to why we're declaring an emergency again in this resolution. To correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't we not already done that, or are we re-upping it because did we set a date on that resolution that declaration would end, or I'm I guess I'm just not sure on that. And that's like the first, therefore it be resolved is declaring an emergency. Joe?
Actually, a couple things. Linda, normally we get what, about 20 to 25 people who vote in person on the day?
46 on average.
46, okay, all right. And as far as the emergency, AJ, I think this is more of a CYA for the association with voting as opposed to normal ops. Again, because the voting is as I said before, the two most single important parts of the community when it comes to boards and functions are our budget and our elections. So I think it's more of a CYA to make sure that everything is covered as opposed to day-to-day ops, because it's not a day-to-day ops. This is something out of the ordinary.
I don't have anything else. I don't know if we need to have them correct this or before you guys approve it. It's something that really should be voted on by the board to accept, much like we did the first resolution.
I would support getting the change documents so we make sure we're got it all squared away.
So would we like to, we can't table this. Can we postpone this, the approval of it then until our meeting on the 10th? And then bring back the correction and you guys can vote on it?
I don't think we need to postpone anything officially. Sorry, just a point. I don't think we have to postpone anything because there's no motion on the table. We can just decide that without having to make any type of a.
Whatever we need to do, but then bring it back on the 10th with the correction. And I think we're all good to go.
Karen, then Andrew.
That's what I was going to say. Paula Beatney.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Just the point that that legal made was try to get this out to the membership in as much notice as possible. And I think we're doing that, but
yep.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Scott.
Joe, is Norm going to have to write up a safety plan? And will that have to be included with all this document?
Well, the safety plan, if it's written, which will be written, if we kind of already have in place, we'll run that right by county health. That won't be part of this. That will be our internal process that we will have to follow. That's an internal.
Gotcha.
But it will be written and run by county.
Thank you.
And the relationship that we have kind of forged with them right now is pretty good. So we haven't had a lot of kickback from them.
Thank you, Joe.
I see Andrew is blacked out. Go ahead, Leslie.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Okay, Linda, am I correct that this information will be sent out with the packets for the AGM?
Yes, indeed. And I also had an article in the September Views.
Okay.
Some of it, I'm not real sure. Part of it, I'm still waiting to hear from Norm as part of an answer to Scott's question is Norm's been working on it already and it's in the pipeline. That's how come I've got a map. So it's just waiting for them to give us a blessing. That's all. But yes, as soon as I know a little bit more, I hope in October to have some really more things about voting by and large. But yes, I've put that in there about in-person voting. I just don't know what the constraints are yet till we hear back from the county.
Thank you.
Joe.
I just got a text from Norm. Plan is already written. Just waiting to hear back.
Any further discussion on this topic of discussion? Okay, well, again, Linda, big thanks to you. You're a big help through this process. Thank you.
Just want us to get it done.
We'll move into item D, approval of our 2021 draft budget. So here we are, everyone. Looking for a motion to approve our 2021 draft budget.
Correction, adopt. That's the new state law. We don't approve, you don't approve, you adopt.
Thank
Isn't
you.
that weird?
Indeed.
I will make a motion to approve the 2021 budget as presented.
I will second that, assuming that you said adopt.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Further discussion. All those in favor of adopting the 2021 draft budget signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Any opposed?
Nay.
Me.
2 nays. My screen, what I counted, the motion passes. All right. Thank you, everyone. Lots of good discussions we've had on that front. I appreciate everyone's input to get us to that. Next up, new business, property owner comments.
All right, it's that time for property owners to add their comments to the meeting if they'd like to. All you need to do is use the raise hand feature in Zoom, and we'll bring you over. That should be at the bottom of the screen if you're on a PC or a Mac, or if you're on a mobile device, I believe it's basically the same location. I'm not seeing any hands raised. Oh, here we go. Got one person here, Connie. I'm going to go ahead and bring you on over. Please give your name and address. And there you go.
Hi, Connie Hopper, 35 Tumbling Water Drive. I just have a question. How many people have to have apps in for the AGM to move forward for the board of directors? Does that make sense?
Are you talking about a quorum, Connie? for
I'm
the
just talking,
AGM meeting?
I'm just, yes, I know the other open positions, you need to have more people apply than there are positions. So I'm wondering if that's the same for the AGM. Do we have to have 8 board of directors, people apply for that for it to be able to go forward? Or if only 3 people apply, that's the question.
Oh,
No,
I
you don't.
understand what you're saying. Okay.
No, you don't. As many as apply, that's who gets voted for. And if not enough people apply, then we go into the next year with an opening and the board fills it.
Got it. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Connie. Have a good evening. And anybody else for property owners' comments? And not seeing any further at this time.
Okay. Thanks, John. Well, thanks, team. Thanks for sticking this one out. Record time again. And thanks to all of those who have logged in to watch. We'll need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
By acclamation, we'll adjourn at 8:15. See you next time.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Have a good weekend. Happy Labor Day to everyone.